Okay, so on my back end, you want me to start at 10 and work my way backwards?
Yeah. Start at 10 and work down.
Okay. I I picked KRS-One at number 10.
Mm. Okay.
Yes. One thing that I've found that has held up with my list, when you go back and look at my list at least, and I think a lot of catalogs work this way,
Mm-hmm.
artists who provide content have a tendency to stand the test of time better. Like when you
Yeah.
say things that are important, impactful, and when you go back and listen to KRS's catalog,
Right.
KRS has spent a lot of his career literally talking about things and social injustices that we've seen unravel in the last 2, 3 years. So it's like I heard a lot of prophecy when I was listening to KRS. I heard a lot of dope records.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of classic hip hop songs. I heard classic hip hop albums. His catalog is impressive. He out nudged Common to me almost because of the fact it points back to what you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
how Common's work the last 5 years or so, or maybe even more, has actually probably hurt him some.
You don't feel like that happened with KRS to an extent, with some of the stuff that
I
he's
mean,
put out over the years?
what's the last thing that KRS really put out?
It was about 3 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I was about to say
Um,
it's about 3, 4
yeah,
years
it
ago, right?
wasn't too long ago. Now, one thing I will say about KRS is the fact that he has consistently put out music. I mean, even more so than any of his peers from that era. Even more so than LL, because LL wasn't really, you know, I mean, he was around, but he wasn't putting out massive amounts of albums like KRS. KRS is kind of like the other side of what LL is. Like LL's your mainstream MC from the '80s that was able to stand the test of time, and then you got KRS, who made street records and, like you said, heavy content, and I think that helps the records actually age better.
No, it does. So that's why. So he out. I mean, so you literally brought up the two people that I pushed him past when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it and went back and listened to the records, was Common and LL, who I had like right outside at like 11 and 12.
So you didn't have LL in that top 10?
No, I didn't, Mike, because I don't feel like he has a classic album, and it's so hard for you to talk about somebody having a top 10 catalog who doesn't have an album that you can directly go point to and say that's one of the greatest rap albums that I've ever heard, because Bad would
Mm.
be the closest thing to it. And how does Bad stand up to something like, okay, uh, Death Certificate,
No, you're right. You're right.
Rise on Me,
You're right.
Iron Man,
You're
Paid
right.
in Full.
It's tough. It's tough. Reggie said commercial or independent MCs. I mean, we're talking all together.
I
Um,
mean, we're talking about a catalog of music, which means you have to show. Okay, so can I break down what my breakdown was as far as
yeah,
when we're
break
talking
down your
about
breakdown.
catalog? Okay, so
All
my
right.
catalog was so the catalog for me was based on how many either classic, great, or good albums that they made, and we
Mhm.
phased those off into like one section. And
Mhm.
then after that, you have like the so-so to those mid-level albums. Like for example, I find when when I looked at Nas's catalog, I'm going to tell you the albums that. Oh, Mike, I called the middle ground "and" because I was listening to the takeover. Remember when he was talking about it was written? He was like "and." So
Right.
like the middle ground is like "and." That's what I called the middle ground. So for me, Nas's middle ground for his album, right? For the middle ground was Streets Disciple, Nasir, The Firm, Hip Hop Is Dead. Those were the albums where it was like, oh, there's stuff on there, but you know.
I didn't like Streets Disciple at all, and I
I
know a
didn't
lot
like
of
Streets
people.
Disciple that much.
Yeah, I know a lot of
People
people who were commenting on our post or our episode last week thought I was very critical of Nas, but yeah, I really wasn't feeling that album.
I will tell you this.
I love
One
these
thing I
thing
will
though.
say about Streets Disciple. One thing that I've noticed: people who love music and who play instruments love like the production and some of the musical things done on Streets Disciple. Don't
Mm,
ask me why, because I've asked them to
yeah,
explain. Like I've talked to musicians about it. They like Streets Disciple because of the musicality that they've told me.
I guess
Like
I haven't played
especially
my
on
instrument in a while.
yeah, I mean, I guess so, Mike. It's like I've had musicians and singers like tell me that that's why they like Streets Disciple. It's like
Mm.
because of some of the musicality and way some of the song structure goes.
Okay. I understand your
Hold
point
on.
about LL, but yeah, go ahead.
No. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I just wanted to wrap up right quick with the rest of my category, and then there are the bad albums, because you want to know what? Every great artist has made some bad material. That's one of the things that I realized, like from looking at all the stuff today. Every great artist has made bad material.
Right.
You know, and
If you
we're
stay
kind of going to
around
go
long
through.
enough, you will make bad material, you know?
Yeah, most of these guys have stayed around enough to make bad material because it's a catalog conversation. That's why Biggie's not in this conversation.
Reggie says Radio by LL is not a classic.
No.
What? Nah, I'm disagreeing with you there. You know what?
I don't think. I mean,
We
it's
have to factor
groundbreaking.
in the timing too. Like, it's hard to really go out there and
I
compare
would
a
say
record
Raising
like a
Hell more.
radio.
I would think Raising Hell more than Radio, if we're gonna pick
Really?
from that era. Yeah,
Mm.
Raising Hell over Radio. Raising Hell has more hits and it's a better produced album. It is.
Can I say something controversial before we get into all this?
Okay,
Run
because I got two
DMC's
more
music
things.
did not age well.
Who?
Run DMC's music did not age well.
I mean,
After Rakim came and KRS came,
yeah.
they were obsolete. They literally, and I know people hate when I say this, it sounds disrespectful, they turned into dinosaurs overnight.
No, Mike. People are used to you being disrespectful at this point for the people that follow us. It's not a problem for any of them at all. So the next thing that I went to after that is so that's how I broke down the album. So the albums are broken down into 3 segments. And so pretty much the people who I kind of rise top of the list were the people who had made the most classic, great, and good albums.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I got into, well, who has made the most, who has at least, and here was the qualifier for me, Mike, for my top 5. Right. You had to have made at least 10 singles, released 10 singles that, like, it shows, like, in history was released as a single that's either considered to be a great song or a hip-hop classic. And when you start talking about that, Mike, very few artists have that.
10 singles that were a hip hop classic,
or just great, like great for its time. Like, like I'm not going to take anything away from, like, we talked about Hard Knock Life and Hate Me Now. I'm not going to take anything away from either one of those songs. I listened to both of those songs this week. I think they're both slightly dated, but still great for their time and still very important and worthy of being a single. And important in the album sales in multi-platinum albums in the mid-90s for that. So I gave those songs their flowers and their just due. Like those records don't sound horrible, Mike. Like I know what you're talking about with the people coming at you about Nas. I think a lot of it was because Hate Me Now. Like I don't think Hate Me Now is dated as you think it is, and I think a lot of people agreed with me on that. And I think people got at you kind of about the Hate Me Now thing.
You know, I remember listening to Hate Me Now when it first actually came on the radio. I think it was Greg Street out here in Atlanta that played it. And I remember that sample just being so big and so massive. And then you heard Puff on there. And I was like, oh, shit, Nas is doing. Yeah, and it's like, I guess I don't expect to feel the same way anymore. But it's like, yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make me feel the way that even Thief's Theme makes me feel. Like, and that's the thing with Nas. Like,
it's different. That's because that's the Nas that you want to hear. But I'll tell you this, Mike, in terms of a feeling, no Nas song ever really banged in the club the way Hate Me Now did. And it's funny that we're even talking about Hate Me Now because somebody was telling me today that used to be their theme music when they walked in the club.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because, it's one of those records. You know what I mean? Right. I hate to keep looking down, but I'm letting everybody know we live. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're good. And so after that, I looked at, well, who's made the most, what I would say, either street anthems or classic album tracks. And there are a lot of people that have done that, and that's where it gets, like, a little bit tougher to see. But there are very few, like, artists that have made, like, consistently. How about this? There are very few artists that have made more great and classic and good material than they have not, and then also have made 10 hit records that are like verifiable hit records or classics to go with it, and then have like the street catalog or the album track catalog to go with it.
Right.
So I kind of based it on those things. I put half of the weight on the album catalog though, because I feel like that's what matters most. Because I look at the album as a timepiece. It's easy to lose songs.
And you know what? And I think that's why you left LL off. And I think LL's one of those guys that doesn't have the album strength that a lot of his peers have, but single wise, there's not many people who have a catalog that rivals his. Raven 210 says, caught the live, love the show, love y'all perspective. 81 baby, salute from Texas. Keep it going. Shout out to Texas, man. Y'all hold it